What did Beethoven's new heroic style sound like in a string quartet? We're about to find out. Last time we saw how Beethoven, facing crisis and transformation, set out to reinvent the quartet. Now we turn to the first movement of his Opus 59, number 1, the opening of a work that broke open the form and announced his new heroic style. In the summer of 1806, Beethoven sat down to write something new, the first of his Opus 59 quartets, nicknamed the Razumovsky Quartets. And it turned out to be unlike any string quartet written before. He stretched the form, making it bigger and more daring. He gave it a bold new language full of drama and emotion. Each of its 4 movements carried more expressive weight than audiences had ever heard before. And through it all, Beethoven opened up a new universe of sound, pushing the instruments to their limits and inventing textures no one had ever imagined in a quartet. The opening of this quartet is remarkable. Right away, Beethoven breaks tradition. Normally the first violin would introduce the main theme, but here it's the cello that begins. In fact, this is the first quartet in history to let the cello sing the opening theme in its natural middle range. Haydn had introduced the theme in the cello before, but always in the upper register of the instrument, as if it were mimicking a violin. Here Beethoven lets the beauty of the cello's natural voice shine through. After the cello's theme, the first violin takes over and climbs even higher. Together, the cello and violin shape a single, sweeping melodic line that rises across a huge 4 octaves from the cello's middle voice up to the violin's soaring high notes. And underneath all of this is a steady stream of eighth notes, at first just 2 voices, then 3, then 4, and finally 8. This thickens the texture, gradually creating an astounding long crescendo over 19 bars. Not only is it an exhilarating opening, but also lends a symphonic texture to these 4 instruments. Let's have a listen to this brilliant opening. Now let's take a closer look at this theme. Beethoven builds it out of just 3 tiny musical ideas, little building blocks we call motifs. They are motif X, 4 notes that rise gently, then fall back to the starting note. Motif Y, a playful run of quick eighth notes, falling, rising a little, then dropping again, rounded off with 2 short staccato bounces. And motif Z, the only large leap in the melody, a jump up by a 6th, followed by a stepwise descent. From just these 3 motifs, Beethoven spins out almost every idea in the movement. That's the genius here. It's incredibly efficient writing. Everything feels connected, even if we don't consciously notice it. Our ears pick up on the unity, and that's part of why the music feels so organic. Listen again to theme A1, this time annotated with the X, Y, and Z motifs. The second part of this theme group A acts as a bridge between what we just heard and what's coming next, and it's built almost entirely from that leap of a 6th, motif Z. Beethoven takes that tiny fragment and forms it into something new. Harmonically, it's a bit ambiguous. After just confirming F major in the previous theme, here Beethoven adds suspense by moving away from this secure tonality. Now we arrive at theme A3, a bucolic contrast. The violins introduce it first and then hand it gracefully to the viola and cello. This kind of pairing, passing back and forth between the instruments, is something Beethoven explores throughout the Razumovsky quartets. Even here, the music is still tied to our opening motifs. We hear elements of both X and Y, but in a more pastoral setting. Then Beethoven starts to play with them. The rising X motif comes back, but now with offbeat accents that create flashes of instability. He even flips X upside down, something we call an inversion. Later, the first violin adds something new, a triplet figure, loosely based on X, except instead of rising like before, it falls quickly. This triplet idea will come back again and again throughout the movement. The theme ends with a burst of energy, a big crescendo that recalls the sweeping opening of the movement, only this time it's much shorter. Theme A4 is the last idea in this opening theme group. It grows directly out of the triplet figure we just heard from the first violin, but now it's the cello's turn. The instrument takes up that triplet motif, giving it an almost triumphant feel. At the end of the cello's phrase, a rising line of staccato eighth notes invites the others to take over this idea. This theme doesn't linger for too long. It's really a transition, preparing the way for the move to C major and the start of the second theme group. Now we've arrived in C major, the bright new home of theme group B. Right away, the music feels different. It's more polyphonic, which simply means several voices weaving together at once. The first violin introduces the melody, that again is based on the opening material. It leans heavily on motif X, moving step by step, climbing upward. The rhythm is more varied now, giving it a sense of freshness, and a little later, that familiar leap of a sixth sneaks in, linking it back to motif Z. The omnipresent motif X appears in the accompaniment. Beethoven is threading these motifs together, binding the music into one tightly woven fabric. Next comes theme B2. The first violin introduces a triplet figure, another abstract transformation of motif X. Soon this figure flows seamlessly around the quartet, each instrument taking a turn. Then all four instruments lock in together, playing the triplet figure across more than 4 octaves. It's a deliberate echo of the vast range we heard at the very start of the movement. The energy builds in a huge crescendo until suddenly it collapses. The music seems to freeze into broken, fragmented soft chords, passed hesitantly from one instrument to another. Just as suddenly, the quartet joins forces to play these 4 chords in a jarring forte. It's one of the strangest and most ingenious passages in the whole movement, a brilliant way to diffuse energy and keep us on edge. Beethoven rounds out the exposition with a closing theme. Once again, it grows directly out of motifs X and Y, but here the mood shifts. After all the energy and outburst of theme B2, this theme feels calmer, almost serene. It's Beethoven giving us a breath, a moment of contrast, before the music plunges ahead. Tradition tells us we should now hear a repeat of the exposition, and at first it seems like that's exactly what Beethoven gives us. But it's a trick. After just 4 bars, the music veers off course, and we quickly realize we're now in the development. The development is where things become unstable and dramatic. Beethoven takes the ideas he introduced to us in the exposition and develops them in a multitude of ways. One of the most striking things about this particular development is its sheer size. Developments are usually shorter than the exposition, but this one, it's massive. The exposition was 102 measures. The development stretches to 150. That extra space lets Beethoven explore idea after idea, and it gives the whole movement a surge of drama. At first, the development seems fairly straightforward. Beethoven tosses around the familiar motifs, X, Y, Z, the triplet figure, even those strange chords from theme B2. And as we expect, we travel through many new keys along the way. And then, just when we think we know where it's going, Beethoven gives us one of the most remarkable moments in the whole movement. Out of nowhere, Beethoven turns the music into a double fugato, a fugue-like passage where the instruments chase each other in overlapping lines. In a double fugato, instead of one subject, there are 2, making it even more impressive. For the first subject, he uses motif Y, that playful figure of eighth notes. For the second, he invents a brand new melody. But even here, he ties it back to the opening by centering it on the leap of a sixth from motif Z. The result is a tense contrapuntal debate that builds in intensity. The crescendo grows and grows until suddenly the whole thing fizzles out and the quartet is left searching. After this, almost tentatively, the familiar motifs return, X, Y, and the triplet figure pass gently from one instrument to another. Near the end of this development, we hear theme A2 once again, though in the exposition, theme A2 led us away from F major, here it is used to bring us back to F major. The music increases to forte and then fortissimo, and the quartet races to the familiar recapitulation. At last we arrive back in F major in the recapitulation. Here we expect the exposition to return more or less as before, but Beethoven can't resist mixing things up. That sweeping crescendo from the opening reappears, but now it feels different. So triumphant in the exposition, it now sounds as if it's defeated and needs to overcome an obstacle. Normally, the recapitulation would stay firmly in the home key, but here, Beethoven quickly strays from F major into darker territory. To us today, it may not sound so unusual, but for audiences in Beethoven's time, it would have been startling. Another bold break from tradition. Not only innovative, but also a way of keeping us on edge, and it makes the CODA, the concluding section, all the more special. You'll see why later. Back in the recapitulation, Beethoven also skips theme A2 entirely. Instead, he moves straight into the pastoral calm of theme A3, now in the strange key of D flat major, a distant key from F major. From there, the music slowly works its way back to F major, and we head for the final stretch. Now comes the CODA, our final section. Theme A1 returns once more. At the start of the movement it was triumphant. In the recapitulation it seemed almost defeated. But here, it's victorious, overflowing with exhilaration. All four instruments join together, punctuating the theme with sharp, offbeat accents, or sforzandi. By casting the theme in a darker light during the recapitulation, Beethoven sets up this final return to feel like the most exuberant of all. It's as if the music has overcome its obstacles and now celebrates in victory, a hallmark of his heroic style. Then the mood softens, the triplet motif returns, intertwining with the simple rising figure of motif X. The instruments toss these ideas back and forth joyfully, celebrating everything we've heard so far. Finally, Beethoven steers us toward the close with a sequence drawn from theme B2. One last giant crescendo, and the movement ends with a sense of grand resolution. This first movement is more than just the opening of a quartet. It's the birth of a new quartet style. Beethoven keeps the intimacy of the string quartet, the conversation between four equal voices, but he expands it into something larger, something symphonic. And yet, despite all the power, the movement feels completely organic. Every theme grows out of the same tiny motifs, so the music seems inevitable, as if it couldn't have been written any other way. That's part of the genius. It's bold and experimental, but it also flows naturally, almost effortlessly, from start to finish. In this single movement, we hear Beethoven redefining what a quartet can be. Not just four instruments in polite conversation, but four instruments telling a sweeping story full of drama, contrast, struggle, and triumph. A heroic style, but built on the most basic building blocks of melody. This is why the Razumovsky quartets, and especially this opening allegro, marks such a turning point. Beethoven showed us that a quartet could carry the same weight as a symphony, while still keeping its intimacy and humanity. And that's why, more than 2 centuries later, it still grips us, still sounds new, and still speaks directly to our hearts and our imagination.